Okay, welcome to the show. Let's see if we have sound and we'll be rolling. Looks like we're good to go. So, hello everyone, and I hope your Christmas was amazing and you had a great day today, resting, doing what you need to do. I am so glad to see everyone. Um, wow, what a day it's been. Oh man, there's never enough hours in the day. There really are not. Um, but tonight we have an interesting show. Some of you have been following this very closely. You already know about what we're going to talk about today. But those of you who do not, this will be new to you, possibly, and hopefully interesting. Before we get started, let me say hello to everyone. I'm going to back it up somewhat and take a sip of my coffee. All right, we're saying hello to Miss K, Teresa, Aisha, Donnie Kuntz, Who's Your Daddy, Rick, Spike Dog, Lisa, Tinkerbell, Pam, Eliana, Goddess, Dieter, Pete Jones, Rose Adams, Kay, Heather Brown, Lisa, Mary Martin, Jamie Blair, Joyce Smith, Mudbug, Bella's in Wonderland, Tinkerbell, Kaleida Hope, Kelly, Keno Lancaster, Tracy Fleetwood, Elizabeth Jones, Rebecca Green, Nancy Drew 101, Joy Smith, Mellon, Ben Aaron, Regina Grady Bolden, and Siren Cindy, Marianne Foster, TJ Bits, B. Royal We, EWTN, Trial Junkie, Spike Dog, I may have already said, Karen Hunt, Jazz Whippet, Nobody Nothing 1717, Frenchie 6290, Oh Hey Christina, Rebecca Ann 1965, Missouri Mimo of 9, Faith Ross, David Rogers, Woman Doing, Mary Ann, and Mino Dino. Okay, I'll leave it at that. So, all of you folks who are here early, thank you for being here early. You're right on time. No tardy slip for you. So good to see everyone. And everyone who is lurking, please come on in and join the chat. Stop being awkward. Hate watchers, too. Come on, hate watchers. Come on and hate watch in the chat and express yourself. As long as you're nice, you're allowed to stay until I'm tired of you. Then I'll kick you out. But that's what we got to say to all of you. And so glad to see you. What's up, Carla Ann? Oh, sorry about that. And so we'll be saying hello to everybody. Okay. Um, Tonight is going to be a night of reading for the most part. We're going to read these transcripts, but I will also include the chat. So please, by no means, because I'm reading, uh, don't hold back, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to be going between reading the transcript and the chat. So please do what you got to do, and hopefully I can include some of your thoughts in the discussion tonight. And hey, we'll keep it brief, okay? I think last time on the Christmas show we almost hit 5 hours. That's truly never the goal. Half of that is the goal. So we'll try to keep it at half of that, and let everybody get to their families, etc., and to other things. So, Ashley, thank you for being here, and also Aaron Town and Pam Sheehan. Okay, so welcome all of you, and like I said, go ahead join the chat if you're just lurking. No problem there. And wasn't it great? Thank you, Mino Dino. Christmas show did rock. Wasn't it great to hear from Donnie Pitbull Kuntz and Jake? Wasn't that great? So I truly enjoyed it. I truly enjoyed it, and it's wonderful to get to talk with people who are new to me from the chat. So that's just amazing. What's up, Senbar and V? Hello. Okay, all you last minute folks, come on in. Um, I guess I have a lot to say, but I don't know. I'll get to it when I get to it. So I think I'm ready now. I think we are good to go. And be aware here, if you're in the channel called The Prof, that's the main channel. If you're in the channel called The Prof True Crime, that's the backup, smaller channel. So you may be in either channel. It's all good to me. Go where you're comfortable. Um, Also, if you're on the replay, please join the comment section. Okay, I would like that to hear your comments after the fact. What's up, Oleg Cat? Hello to you, and Nicole, and anyone coming in. Okay, so just give me a moment and we'll get to it here. Okay, so what we're looking at today here is our transcript from the March 18th, 2024 hearing. Now, there's a lot I'd like to say, but I guess I'll just take it piecemeal. So, this March 18, 2024 hearing was very important. Uh, it was covering two aspects, and I'm not very happy. Okay, I'm not very happy about it in general, but it had to happen, and it did happen. The outcome for part of it was pretty good. Okay, in that there was going to be a contempt attempted to find the attorneys Baldwin and Rozzi in contempt of court. That ended up not panning out because of this particular um, day of court, March 18, 2024. Okay. However, part of the March 18, 2024 hearings or proceedings involved the testimony of Officer Todd Click, and we'll be discussing him somewhat later. Uh, but we'll get into it by reading directly from the transcript here, uh, because obviously this entire investigation and this entire the entire pretrial hearings and the trial itself were all conducted in secrecy with absolutely zero transparency and under a cloud of suspicion. And I got to say, before we get started, that I was very, 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 very pleased to see Mr. Vinny Politan give his opinion on the ridiculous nature of the statements of Mr. Doug Carter, superintendent of the Indiana State Police, um, and remind him and everyone that this entire investigation and trial, all of these proceedings, have taken place with a complete lack of transparency. It's been shrouded in secrecy since February 13th, 2017. And it's just really telling because they will come and complain on every aspect of the public's response to this. Okay. But the truth is that the public is very well aware that there have been lies told, that when things are done properly, they don't have to be done in the under the cover of darkness. Okay, so the fact that this has all been done under a shroud of secrecy has dissolved, or how would I say it? It has eroded any bit of trust the public might have had in law enforcement and the court. Okay. So, because of the way that things were done under the cover of secrecy, the public trust has been eroded. Okay. So, no one trusts a thing that law enforcement in Indiana is saying. No one trusts a thing that the prosecutor or the court itself is saying. And and so the people are a little upset, to put it mildly. We understand that even something as simple as cameras in the courtroom would have done some, I mean, it would have been a gesture towards some sort of transparency, that would have done some to instill some trust or confidence in the court system and in the proceedings here in this case. But unfortunately, that hasn't happened. Okay, that hasn't happened. So we are stuck, and the public is stuck, and the public is thirsty, and the public is bloodlusty for information. Okay. Now, with all of that as a context, we are stuck with transcripts, even from this March 18th, 2024 hearing, because no cameras, no audio recordings, no transparency. And this here that you're looking at was acquired at great expense. Okay. And I ask you this: how is it proper that the public would be obstructed from view of these proceedings, and then further have to cough up exorbitant amounts of money for these transcripts, into the thousands of dollars for these transcripts? How is that? And how is it going to be with the trial of Richard Allen, where surely there will be tens of thousands of dollars of transcript fees for the transcripts from that, and who knows how long the wait? It is why I am encouraging everyone to send FOIA request to the court for every single aspect of this case, every single piece of evidence that was admitted. Now is the time for the Freedom of Information Act to prove its worth. Okay. And all you have to do is send in your FOIA request to the court. And I highly recommend and suggest that everyone does. Okay. So that's what we got. Remember, we still don't know a thing about this trial. Now, you think we know a thing about this trial. The only thing we know about this trial is that there were a couple somewhat trustworthy attorneys who took the time out and expense to place themselves in the courtroom and come out with handwritten notes. Okay? How much information can be contained in handwritten notes by an attorney who's fatigued, who's trying to keep up, and who's trying to deal with the volume of information coming out of the proceedings? So, like I said, even though we heard some retellings or readings or impressions from the courtroom, readings of the notes, we still don't know very well what actually transpired in that courtroom. And by that, I mean word for word, exhibit by exhibit. Okay, we are still waiting for all of that. So, as I mentioned, this entire thing has been shrouded in secrecy and will continue to be. Don't get it twisted. But we will hope that more information comes. And anyway, that long prelude to say I wanted to acknowledge and thank Mr. Vinny Politan for his calling that out and calling out the Indiana State Police for their comments afterwards. Okay. So let's, with that being said, we will hope that we can keep moving forward. Okay. Okay, so this is the recording of proceedings at the hearing on the motion to dismiss. As I said, on this March 18th, 2024, there was a contempt hearing and there was a motion to dismiss. Okay, so we're going to get into this motion to dismiss, and we will see what's entailed here. Okay, so we're looking at the direct examination of Todd Click here. Okay. And we're going to begin down here at the midway of the page. State your name for the record. And this is Mr. Baldwin asking. My name is Todd Click. Okay, what do you do for a living? I'm currently a parole agent with the state of Indiana. What did you do prior to that? I was a police officer with the Rushville Police Department. How long did you do that? A little more than 20 years. From February 6th of 2001, and then I retired December 31st of 2021. Okay, 20 years. To get to the heart of this, have you worked on the Delphi case? Yes, I have. Can you tell the judge what kind of work you did on the case? I provided investigative assistance to the two other detectives, Detective Greg Ferenczi, who was a Terre Haute police officer, and he was also an FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force member, and Detective Kevin Murphy, who was Indiana State Police detective and who was also a FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force member. And what kind of things were you doing in terms of investigative support? Conducting interviews and trying to gather evidence. Over the course of how long did you do that? Roughly 3 years. I began providing assistance approximately June of 2018. Now, for all of you new here, and even some of you long timers, keep this in mind, okay? So, Officer Click began in June of 2018 on Delphi and ceased when Detective Ferenczi was shot and killed in the line of duty July 7th, 2021. So, June 2018 to July 2021, 3 years. 3 years these guys worked this together. And it only ceased when Detective Ferenczi or Agent Ferenczi was shot and killed by an Odinist white supremacist freak named Shane Meehan. I guarantee you he was a Mason. Shane Meehan now, it appears that they are going to try to find him not fit for trial, drop charges, and he will get away with the murder of an FBI agent. It appears to be what they are trying. You understand that? We'll continue. I'm going to get to the commentary later. Let's just try to get through this. All right. Can you just give a very general understanding, a little bit more detail? But what kind of things did you do? Well, in June of 2018, Detective Ferenczi and Detective Murphy came to Rushville to conduct an interview with a gentleman by the name of Elvis Fields. They asked to use our interview room at the Rushville Police Department. They asked me if I would be willing to operate the equipment for them. They asked me if I was familiar with Elvis Fields, to which I was. They asked if I would kind of watch the interview and kind of give my opinion Um, kind of a hometown opinion? Yes. Okay, keep going. Okay. So after that, Detective Murphy and Detective Ferenczi told me that they were looking at a couple of individuals from the Delphi area. Okay, so let me back it up for the timeline for you, because we gloss over or skim over these timeline points, but we need to specifically hone in on these. All right. So as far as timeline points, remember, when did he say he came into this? June of 2018, right? So this is is recounting the story of how, where he says in June of 2018, okay, this is not 2022, this is not after the arrest of Richard Allen. This is way back, June 2018. Ferenczi and Murphy came to Rushville to interview Elvis Fields. They asked for input from Click because he was familiar with Elvis. So in June 2018, they interview Elvis Fields with Click there. They ask for his input. And then they say that they're looking at a couple of individuals from Delphi. And they say Holder and Westfall. See, it's line 3 here. Brad Holder and Patrick Westfall. So think about it. Just stop your shit, okay, right now. Stop your shit. Stop the noise in your head and all the thoughts. June 2018, before Rick Allen is even on the radar, even a thing, Ferenczi and Murphy come to Rushville. They interview Fields. They talk to Click and say, we're also looking at Holder and Westfall. So now we got Fields, Holder, Westfall, June 2018. All right. Okay, so keep going. And he says, they asked me if I could help find a tie between Fields, Holder, and Westfall. Okay, you see that? Okay, so that was one of your kind of things that you did in the course of this investigation. That is correct. Were you able to find any ties between Fields, Holder, and Westfall? Yes, I was. What ties did you find? While reviewing some photographs on Brad Holder's Facebook page, I located a photograph with approximately 5 individuals, all wearing Vinlander t-shirts. For those who don't know, what is Vinlander? Vinlander is a group that practices Norse and paganism religion, kind of along the Viking culture. Okay, keep going. So in the photos, I identified Brad Holder and Patrick Westfall, and there was a gentleman standing in between the two of them that I immediately recognized to be Johnny Messer. Okay, so now we have Fields, Holder, Westfall, Messer, June 2018. Thank you, Mudbug. Okay, how do you know Johnny Messer, Todd Click? Johnny Messer is from Rushville. He's been arrested numerous times from the Rushville Police Department. So I was very familiar with Johnny. All right. What else, if anything, did you do following the recognition that Johnny Messer from Rushville was hanging out with these two guys from Delphi, these Finlanders, Brad Holder, Patrick Westfall? Okay, so I knew from previous incidents that Johnny Messer's uncle, Billy Messer, used to live with Elvis Fields. Okay, so that's another connection. Okay. So gentlemen and ladies, let's back it up. We got Holder, Westfall, Johnny Messer, June of 2018. They're interviewing Fields, and Click says, I knew that Johnny's uncle, Billy Messer, used to live with Fields. Okay. So you see how Click is somewhat vital in this because he already knows these individuals and he knows the connections. All right. So I contacted Detective Ferenczi and Detective Murphy and told them specifically to look at that photo and that the individual standing in between Brad Holder and Patrick Westfall was Johnny Messer, who was an individual from Rushville. So do you see what's happening here? So at this early stage, Todd Click is helping connect Elvis Fields, Johnny Messer to Brad Holder and Patrick Westfall. In other words, he's helping to connect the Rushville crew to the Delphi crew. Okay, what did you do after that? Okay, so after that, I know that Detective Ferenczi and Detective Murphy came down to Rushville and we conducted an interview with Johnny Messer. Okay, and then what happened? After conducting the interview, we also conducted an interview with Taylor Hornady, who was an ex-girlfriend of Johnny Messer's. And did she provide any information that was useful in the investigation? Yes, she did. Okay, keep going. What's next? She was able to provide photographs of Johnny Messer, Patrick Westfall, Brad Holder, several other individuals. And the photographs were taken during club meetings or outings that the Villander group conducted. Okay. What did you do then? We conducted several other interviews. I had specifically asked Johnny if he had tried to recruit anyone else from Rushville to be part of this Vinlander group. He denied that he did. Okay. And here comes the bias. Are you ready? Judge, I'm going to object to him reporting on what Johnny Messer may have told him. Sustained. You see, you're going to see a pattern. If you go through and start reading these transcripts, you're going to recognize a very identifiable pattern here, which is every time the prosecution stands up and wildly objects, it's immediately followed with sustained from the judge. Johnny Messer is not here to testify. Okay. After your interview with Johnny Messer, what then did you do? I conducted several interviews of people that I knew were connected to Johnny Messer. And those individuals told me that Johnny had tried to recruit them into the Vinlander group. Okay, so after you learn that Johnny Messer is recruiting people, then what did you do? Well, he didn't just learn that. Okay, he didn't just learn that Johnny Messer was trying to recruit people into the Vinlander group. He learned that Johnny Messer lied about trying to recruit others into the Vinlander group. During our interview with Taylor Hornady, she had given us a cell phone of hers. Well, she had indicated that there was a cell phone of hers that contained recordings of a kidnapping that Johnny was involved in. So we obtained a search warrant to go into that cell phone and conduct a forensic exam to retrieve those recordings. Was that fruitful? There were recordings of Johnny Messer and another individual kidnapping an individual at gunpoint in the Indianapolis area. What did you then do? At that point, we tried to identify who the victim of that kidnapping was, but we were unsuccessful. Okay, keep going. What was the next big thing that you did on the case? All right. We conducted some other interviews. We had spoken with Joyce Moffett, who was Elvis's sister. Elvis Field's sister, Joyce Moffett. During that interview, she confirmed that she had heard Elvis make comments about things associated with the crime scene. The murder crime scene of Abby Williams and Liberty German. Can we back that up, please? Can we back that up? Can I back that up for you? Because you see how all of this shit got lost in the noise, in all of the confusion, the whack job fucking trolling, the gaslighting, the lying, the controlled narrative, all the bullshit, the Facebook old wacko old ladies. All of these facts got lost in the noise. During that interview with Joyce Moffett, Elvis Field's sister, she confirmed that she had heard Elvis make comments about things associated with the crime scene, the murder crime scene of Abby Williams and Liberty German. Okay, what information did you do next? Or what did you do next? That information was given. Of course, myself, Detective Murphy, and Detective Ferenczi were aware of that information. And I was told by Detective Ferenczi and Detective Murphy, remember, they are the FBI task force members, that they were going to try to contact Unified Command. Oh, what does that mean? Liggett and Holman, who don't give a fuck about this case? Yeah. To try to obtain a search warrant for the residence of Elvis Fields. And what happened? We never heard anything. Oh, big surprise. Big surprise there. You kidding me? Unified Command never called and said, yep, tell us what information and we'll try to get that. Yeah. I, Detective Murphy, and Detective Ferenczi were unable to give an answer as to whether or not we were authorized to get a search warrant. So Joyce Moffett Elvis's sister says basically he's somehow involved in the crime and you weren't able to secure a search warrant of any type. That's correct. Because Unified Command wouldn't give the go ahead. Big surprise there. Okay, what happened next? Well, we conducted several other interviews throughout that time frame. Okay, were there any other connection between Elvis Fields and Brad Holder that you know of? We were able to connect Elvis Fields to a gentleman by the name of Josh Chrisman. Josh Chrisman was originally part of a group called the American Guard. There was a Make America Great Again rally that was held in Indianapolis, approximately 2016, I believe, where the American Guard and the Vinlanders were together. And after that rally, they had a house party at a gentleman's house by the name of Mickey McGilly. Mickey McGinley? McGinley, yes, thank you. He was also Mr. McGinley, a Vinlander. He was also friends with a gentleman by the name of Brian James, who was, I guess, the head of the American Guard. Okay, so we were able to connect Josh Chrisman. Now listen. All right, I'm gonna. I know I said I wasn't gonna comment much. This is where you really need to fucking pay attention, okay? And I'm really sorry that I get upset because I try to control myself and I fail every single show. and I'm not proud of it because I could go much further without the bad language and the losing of the temper. Okay, so I'm trying here. But this is where you really need to pay attention, and I'll tell you why once we read through it. Okay, but this is it gets real thick right here. And I think everyone has missed this, even the defense. Okay, so they need to listen up right now. All right, middle of the page. Line number 11. So we were able to connect Josh Chrisman right here. We knew that he was a semi-truck driver that conducted deliveries for a company called Flynn Livestock that would transport hogs to different facilities. I know that Weichman's pig farm in Delphi and then the Tyson plant in Logansport that they would make deliveries to. Elvis Fields, quote, kind of worked under the table at Flynn Livestock, and he would get paid by the drivers to load and unload the semis, and he would periodically ride with the drivers to make deliveries. So Johnny Messer, this guy, what's this guy's name? The new guy that you were just talking about, Josh Chrisman. Josh Chrisman. And Josh Chrisman knew Elvis Fields. Yes, that's correct. Okay, so that's another question. Josh Chrisman drove truck delivering hogs for Flynn Livestock. Elvis worked under the table helping. You remember 7 years of a rumor of a pig roast? Do you remember rumors that there was a pig delivered to the old CPS building? Do you know that pig roasts are often a part of initiations into these clubs? What do you think is a possibility that maybe Elvis and Josh Chrisman together delivered a hog or a pig for this pig roast, if there was a pig roast? Look, the persistent rumor of a pig roast from day one until this very day, combined with this connection of Elvis Fields to Josh Chrisman, who delivered pigs for Flynn Livestock, pig roast. These defense attorneys need to get on the fucking ball. All right, I've lost my place already. Okay. Where are we here? Page 10. Okay, so that's another connection. Were there any other connections to Brad Holder between Elvis Fields and Brad Holder? Between Josh Chrisman, let me remove this. Between Josh Chrisman and Johnny Messer, I don't recall any others. Okay, do you recall if there were any Facebook photos that you have looked at where Brad Holder was following Elvis or vice versa? Well, there were some pictures on Elvis Fields' Facebook page and Brad Holder's Facebook page that were very similar in nature. What do you mean by that? There was pictures of sticks that were placed in different arrangements. I know that there was a picture of a folding pocket knife that they each had. They each had similar pictures of trees. It was just the similarities were very odd. Okay, so that could be another connection between Holder and Elvis Fields. We believe so, yes. Now, when he said we there, didn't it sound like he meant Ferenczi, Murphy, and himself? Which means FBI task force and himself? Did Elvis Fields ever admit to anybody else or say anything else that was suspicious or would show that he might have been involved in these murders? Judge, I'm going to object. Okay, their motion is about a missing audio recording of a Brad Holder interview, and I'm not sure what the connection to Elvis Fields or how this is helpful with us in regard to this motion. See, blah, blah, blah. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear any of this. How is this relevant, says the judge. Judge Mr. McClellan, in his response to our motion, said two things. Number one, that the missing document, the missing video, is not either exculpatory or material useful to the defense. What I am doing right now is laying down the foundation that at the end of the road, you will see this is actually, it would be materially useful to the defense based upon his investigation, number one. Number two, you'll be finding in a moment that, well, Mr. McClellan argued bad faith. You have to prove bad faith. Well, that's a difficult to do. And a part of what's happening here is you're going to learn that Mr. Click, that the law enforcement working on this case operated in bad faith and they refused to investigate. They tried in conjunction with other evidence that I will be talking about. Okay, so we're going to get to this evidence. Yes. Is that what you're telling me? Yes. Then let's get to the evidence. Yes. Shall we? I mean, it may not be through this witness. It may be through others. Well, let's get to it then, sir. Okay. Did Elvis Fields make any admissions that you know of about being involved in this crime? Objection, objection. Really? You're the prosecutor and you don't want to hear whether Elvis Fields made any admissions about being involved in the crime? What kind of prosecutor are you? What kind of law enforcement are you that you don't want to know who's involved in this crime? Sustained. What did I tell you? Every single time it's sustained. Clear bias. Judge hearsay. There's a hearsay exception against interest. And that if somebody says that I was involved in a crime, that would be against their interest. To whom? It'd be against their own interest. I killed somebody. That's not hearsay. That's an exception to hearsay. The objection was that it wasn't to this gentleman here. That's why I sustained. Okay. So they don't want to know whether or not Elvis admitted having any part in this. Okay. So this is fucking 21st century justice for you. Did you ever hear Elvis Fields say anything where he was involved in this crime as part of your investigation? Elvis did not say anything directly. No. Did he say anything to Kevin Murphy? There was back in February of 2018, I believe Jerry Holman and Kevin Murphy interviewed Elvis Fields at the Rushville Police Department. And when Detective Murphy took Elvis back to his trailer, Elvis approached Detective Murphy and said, "Hey, if my spit is found on those girls and I've got a reason for why it's there, I'll be okay, correct?" Let's read that one again. Elvis approached Detective Murphy and said, "Hey, if my spit is found on those girls and I've got a reason for why it's there, I'll be okay, correct?" Okay, after that type of information, do you know if that was relayed? Was that part of what information, if you know, was relayed to Unified Command here to try to see if they'd be willing to get a search warrant for Elvis Fields' house? Yes. 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 Onus is on Unified Command. And that was, if I recall, that was part of, there were some statements that Elvis had made to his sister that initially prompted the investigation into Elvis Fields. Okay, and again, that was Joyce Moffett or someone else? That was a different sister. Elvis, okay, what did that part of your investigation reveal? Elvis had made some statements to his sister, Mary Abrams. I don't recall exactly all of the words that he used, but he told Mary, quote, that he was going to go away for a while. He had done something bad to some girls. He was on a high bridge. That they had placed sticks on one of the girls' hair to represent antlers, that he was in a gang and he had a brother now. Fuck that. Again, Elvis made some statements to his sister, Mary Abrams. I don't recall exactly all of the words that he used, But he had told Mary Abrams that he was going to go away for a while, that he had done something bad to some girls, that he was on a high bridge. They had placed sticks in one of the girls' hair to represent antlers, that he was in a gang and he had a brother now. Judge, I'd like to renew the objection. You said you get to the evidence. Let's just get there. Okay. How much stuff, in your opinion, was out there that would cause a good investigator to think Elvis Fields and Brad Holder were somehow connected to these murders? It was the belief of Detective Murphy, Detective Greg Ferenczi, and I that there was a strong likelihood that Brad Holder, Patrick Westfall, and Elvis Fields had a strong involvement in the murders of the girls. Okay, so how did this investigation on your end wind down? My investigation came to an end when Detective Ferenczi was shot and killed in the line of duty. My investigation came to an end when Detective Ferenczi was shot and killed in the line of duty. And what happened after that? What did you do then, if anything, on the Delphi case? I did absolutely. Judge, may I object again? May I object again and be more specific in my objection? We're talking about a recording of Brad Holder on February 17th, 2017. All of this is years later. And they have to show how he would know that this evidence is exculpatory in 2017. When the recording goes missing, in order to meet the threshold for materially exculpatory, we're not getting there. And it doesn't seem to be going in that direction. And it's irrelevant to what was known in 2017 when the recording went missing. Again, we don't want to know. We don't want to know. All right. Again, Judge Mr. McClellan responded to my motion, citing case law that says, number one, you have to show that it, as Ms. Diener just said, that it's either exculpatory or the other word was materially useful to the defense. This is all foundational for what now I'm about to get into, which is what happened after he was done, what was done or what wasn't done. Bad faith, very difficult to prove. And that's what we're going to be venturing into that territory. But also, it's going to show that what could have been or what would have been on those missing videos would have been certainly useful to the defense, materially useful, and or exculpatory. And that's for the court to decide. I'd have to sustain the objection. Say, sustain again. Another one. Just back to back. Sustain. That's how she does shit in Delphi. Okay. Did you have a chance? Well, next, what did you then? What was the next time you did anything on the Delphi case? I did nothing further after Detective Ferenczi was shot and killed. After Richard Allen was arrested, what, if anything, did you do? I eventually contacted a friend of mine who was a former prosecutor and was a criminal defense attorney. Why did you do that? After Richard Allen was arrested, I was initially kind of shocked and confused. I read the affidavit, the probable cause affidavit for the arrest, and I felt like the investigative information that Detective Ferenczi, Detective Murphy, and I had compiled was more compelling than what was contained within the probable cause affidavit for Richard Allen's arrest. Oh, I would tend to agree, Mr. Click. I would tend to agree. Uh, doesn't take a genius to figure that one out. So, what did you do based on that thought? Well, I wasn't sure exactly what to do, so I reached out to a friend of mine who is a former prosecutor and was a defense attorney for advice on what I should do. And what did you do after talking with him? We decided that we would draft a letter to Mr. McClelland's office. That's what we did. Okay. I'm handing you what's been marked now as Defendant's Exhibit A. If I could get you to review that for me, and when you're done, let me know. Yes, this is part of the letter that was submitted to Mr. McClelland's office. Okay, and that was sent by certified mail? Yes, sir, it was. What date? It would have been sent in the mail on April 28th of 2023. Who did you send it to? Mr. McClelland's office. What was your reasoning for writing this letter? Well, just to make sure that he was aware of the investigative work that Detective Murphy, Detective Ferenczi, and I had conducted. Well, I'll move to admit Defendant's Exhibit A. Okay. Miss Diener, Judge, this letter refers to his report, and it is a letter from 2023, and he indicated that he began his participation in June of 2018, and the rules regarding this case law regarding a motion to dismiss for destruction of exculpatory evidence, or even in the alternative, if it's potentially useful, determining whether the state acted in bad faith has to do with what was known at the time of the particular item of evidence being missing, lost, or destroyed. This is far beyond that time period, and our argument is that it's not relevant for the purpose of this hearing. Any response? If you're hiding evidence back in 20, oh, I gotta come onto the screen. If you're hiding evidence back in 2017, it might be something that you would do in 2023, and that's where this is headed. Boom, boom. Baldwin. Nothing like getting to the point. Let's read that again. If you're hiding evidence back in 2017, it might be something that you do in 2023, says Baldwin. That's where this is headed. Okay, so she admits it. Okay, she admits it. Let's put this back. She admits it. All right. In this document, you say, I want to write you, or I want to write to ensure you've been provided all of the information associated with the investigative efforts for your use in this case and for disclosure to opposing counsel as provided by law. Is this right? That is correct. Why'd you do that? Per the advice of my attorney, any information that was presented to the prosecutor's office should also be discoverable to any defense counsel. Okay, is that all you provided in the letter, the certified mailing that you sent to Nick McClelland? There was also a brief summary of our investigative product. I'm going to hand you what's now being marked as Defendant's Exhibit B and ask you to review that. Tell me when you're ready. Yes, this is the investigative summary that was included with the letter to Mr. McClelland's office. Pretty much or if not at all of which you have already previously testified to is contained in Exhibit B? For the most part, yes. Okay, I'll move to admit Exhibit B. Okay, so Exhibit B offered. State objects. State objects. Same reason. It's outside the scope of what's relevant to the evaluation of missing recording for February 17, 2017. I'll show B is admitted over your objection. Well, hell. Okay, so B is admitted. So in other words, we have the investigative summary from Click and the little note that accompanied it. So all of you are clear on what was admitted. Okay. So that was the April 29th, or that was April 29th that you sent this document detailing much of what your investigation involving Brad Holder, Patrick Westfall, and Elvis Fields. Is that correct? That is correct. So did you hear from Nick McClelland on or at any time during May of 2023? No, I did not. What about June of 2023? Did you hear from Nick McClelland at any time? No, I did not. What about July of 2023? Did you hear from Mr. McClelland then? No, I did not. What about August of 2023? Did you hear from Mr. McClelland then? I was contacted by Mr. Mullins of Mr. McClelland's office, and it was mid-August, I believe, of 2023. Tell me about that. Now listen to this, because this is rich. This is rich. He wanted to set up a meeting, it's right here, with me and Detective Holman and asked that I provide all of my investigative materials, which would include police reports, audio video recordings of interviews, and then they told me that they would sit down with me and go over some of the evidence that they had with Mr. Allen to try to put my mind at ease. All right, so did you catch that? Did you catch that? I mean, how devious is this? They basically said, bring us everything you have. They wanted their own discovery. You see what I mean? They wanted it all. They said, bring us everything. So we can put your mind at ease about this whole thing and continue on with Mr. Allen. You see what's happening there? They wanted it all. They wanted to know. Remember, you want to know what we know. Yeah, they wanted to know what he knew. They wanted all the receipts, all the recordings, all the interview summaries, all the reports, everything. So they could put his mind at ease about Mr. Allen. You can't make this shit up. You can't. Sounds legit? Okay, let's get back to it. Where am I? Put your mind at ease. Number 17. Put your mind at ease. Yeah, that's correct. I'd want to talk about so like videotapes of who did you, we'll strike that. Did you do that when you arrived? Yes, I did. Okay, did Mr. McClelland ask you in May, well, or anybody from law enforcement ask you to bring any of those items in May of 2023? No, sir, they didn't. Did anybody in law enforcement or Mr. McClelland's office ask you to bring any of those pieces of evidence, videos of Elvis Fields and others in June of 2023? No, sir. July of 2023? No, sir. Okay, but it was August of 2023? Yes. All right, so what did you do then? I went into Indiana State Police Post and met with the detectives, Mr. Holen and Mr. David Vito. Okay. which means that they are accountable for this information at this point. So is Doug Carter. What happened? I provided them with everything that I had. I provided them with a thumb drive that contained all of the interviews that were conducted. I believe there was some cell phone extraction data that was included, like my audio and video interviews. And then I sat down with Detective Vito for approximately an hour or so and just kind of gave him a brief summary of the investigative work that Detective Ferenczi, Detective Murphy, and I had completed. Did they seem interested in your investigative efforts? No. In my opinion, no. Well, you said you were there because how is it that you phrased it? You were concerned? Part of it was they were going to show me evidence against Mr. Allen to help put my mind at ease. Did they do that? No, sir. No. You see, this whole thing was about getting everything you had. After this meeting with Vito and Holman and whoever else you said, then what happened? I left the state police post as I was walking out. Now, key here. Think about this. He's going in to give them everything he has from Detective Murphy, rest in peace. No, I'm sorry, Detective Ferenczi, rest in peace. Detective Murphy and himself, the entire whole thing with Rushville, Messer, Fields, Holder, Westfall. He's going in there to hand them that on a silver platter. As he's walking out, here it is. I noticed Brad Holder sitting in the front lobby. Who here in the chat, raise your hand if you think it's a coincidence. Do I hear crickets? You see, I bet they called Holder and said, you come over here and sit in this lobby when Click's walking out so you can scare the shit out of him. I went out to my car and drove back to Rushville. After you drove back to Rushville, how often, if ever, did anybody from law enforcement contact you about what you had just provided them? I was never contacted. Did you ever contact them? I contacted Detective Holman. Why did you do that? Shortly after the Franks memorandum had been released, I was contacted by a friend of mine that stated a female by the name of Alicia Cole, who had had a child with Johnny Messer baby mama. Had a cell phone of Johnny's that she believed I might be interested in. Were you aware during the course of your investigation, before you kind of got off the investigation, of a phone that you would have liked to have had? Yes. We searched for several cell phones belonging to Johnny Messer that Johnny would have been using during the time that Abby and Libby would have been killed. We actually referred to that cell phone as the Goldilocks cell phone. We believe that there might have been information contained on that cell phone. Okay, so what did you do once you heard that somebody had contacted you about a cell phone that belonged to Johnny Messer? Did you say in 2017? That is correct. What did you then do? Judge, may I renew my objection unless this Johnny Messer cell phone relates to Brad Holder? Yes, it does. Sustained. See? I don't know where I can go, Judge. I mean, did you contact anyone about this phone from law enforcement side to go and pick up this phone with evidence that you thought might be there from 2017? I contacted Detective Holman, Jer. And then what happened? I checked with Alicia Cole, Johnny Messer's baby mama. When I spoke with Detective Holman, Jer, and said that, and I explained to him the significance that we felt that cell phone provided. Detective Holman said that he would make arrangements to obtain that cell phone. I contacted Alicia Cole and I told her that a Detective Holman from the state police would be contacting her to retrieve that cell phone. After approximately 2 weeks, I contacted Alicia just to make sure that the cell phone had been recovered by the state police, and it had not been. And then what happened? At the time, I contacted Brian Alvey, who's an investigator for the criminal defense team, and advised him of the cell phone, and he went and retrieved the cell phone. You can't make the shit up. You can't make this shit up at all. Okay, when Doug Carter says that, don't question us, move to another country, justice has been served, stop being mean, we're not corrupt, you wonder if he's ever read a single word of any of this. Are you familiar with Celebrite? Tell the judge what Celebrite is and what you know, how you know how to use it. Celebrite is a program that law enforcement uses to extract data from electronic devices. You can, for a cell phone example, you can recover data that is currently on the cell phone, and you can recover data that has been deleted from the cell phone. Have you had the chance to look at the results of a phone dump from 2023? I briefly looked at it, yes. Okay, I want to hand you what's marked as Defendant's Exhibit C, or should be. Are you familiar with this thumb drive? Yes, I am. What's that? This is the thumb drive that contains the extracted data from Patrick Westfall's cell phone. How much data was on there in terms of dates? From what date to what date? There wasn't. Judge, may I interrupt with a preliminary question, says Ms. Diener. Court, yes. Did you already testify as to where the Westfall cell dump came from? No, I did not testify to that. I would object on that foundation. Foundation, where did you get the phone dump information from? From you, sir. Okay. I asked you to retrieve that for me. That is correct. Do you have specialized training in Celebrite, says Miss Diener. I have not been trained on the Celebrite program. However, I'm very familiar with the reports that are generated from the cell phone extractions. But you're not trained. I have not been trained by the Celebrite company, no. And when you were a law enforcement officer, did you have access to Celebrite equipment in order to operate that and to complete examinations with regard to a Celebrite dump? When I was a detective, I was an investigator for the Indiana State Police Crimes Against Children Task Force. Any cell phone that we had that we were going to do a forensic examination on, we would take to the Indiana State Police Cybercrimes Unit. They would extract the data, and then they would provide me with the data that was extracted. No other questions. And sir, that phone dump that you looked at, that's what you have seen in other cases. That's the extraction. That is correct. What dates did Patrick Westfall have for that extraction on his phone? The first date of significant extracted detail that I saw was on August 12th, 2023. What about the last date? I did not review that. Okay, did you see anything in July of 2023? Text, emails, photographs, anything like that? No, I did not. Okay, what about, let's go back to April. Anything in April? No, sir. Anything in January? Sidebar is called, okay? None of this is in your motion. Not one shred of this is in your motion. Your motion deals with a documented dated February 17th, 2017. It's an FBI report of Holder on the same day. Strike that, February 19th, the interview of Patrick Westfall. That's what you've complained about in your motion, right? None of this is in your motion. This is the evidence to support the motion that counteract Mr. McClelland's argument that there's not bad faith. This is very specific, Mr. Baldwin. You did not incorporate any of this into your motion to dismiss. May I speak to our response? Sure. Our response about bad faith, we don't even get to bad faith unless they show that it's exculpatory. And then in the alternative, that it's potentially useful. We haven't even gotten to potentially useful for the recording that's missing of Brad Holder. So our response about bad faith is after we get through whatever we're in the category of material or materially exculpatory, which is the heading of their motion of potentially useful or potentially useful, and we aren't either at that one. Okay, so here's where this is headed, right? This is headed that Westfall brought in a new fucking phone. So let's go there. And thank you, Ashley Nudo, and thank you, Mudbug. Okay, thank you, Ashley and Mudbug. What's up, Josh and Patty B, and all of you who are coming in? Thank you so much for coming in and joining the chat. The chat is priceless to me, and so please join the chat. It's an amazing resource for all to read your chats. What you would learn, Judge, is that Patrick Westfall, his phone, His phone he brought into the police at their request, and the phone that he brought into them had only 4 days. Knowing that he was going there, he brought a phone with no data on it, predating when he was going there. It's either scrubbed or he brought in a new phone. And that goes, Judge, towards showing that he had a predisposition or he was trying to hide evidence. And when he's trying to hide evidence, that then goes toward, well, if he was trying to hide evidence in 2023, what is he doing back in 2017? And you see, that's exactly like law enforcement was doing. Okay. Our unified command was hiding evidence in 2023. They were hiding evidence in 2017. And Mr. Baldwin is arguing that Patrick Westphal is hiding evidence in 2023. Therefore, he's likely hiding evidence 2017. Then perhaps you should have pled that, because you did not plead that in this particular motion that I am holding in my hand. And if I may say, Judge, the content of the motion with regard to Patrick Westphal says that they have been given a narrative and there is no recording, and they are speculating as to whether or not we are telling the truth about whether there's a recording. So I have a witness here to testify to that effect. So our preparation has been for the allegation of a dismissal based on destruction of exculpatory evidence. It's specific to a recording of Brad Holder on February 17th of 2017 that was discovered missing or lost in August of 2017. Okay. And I've given you a lot of leeway, says our biased judge. None of this testimony, very little, deals with your motion to dismiss for destruction of exculpatory evidence as you pled. You can stand there and tell me all you want, but this is what you pled, and I'm not hearing any evidence about that. In order to win on that, we don't have to plead everything that's going to happen in a trial. I mean, no, but you do in a motion to dismiss. You have to put the other party on notice, which you did, and then they filed a particularized response to it. Well, if you're not going to allow me to do it, I can offer to prove, and we can move this hearing along a bit more quickly. You can do an offer to prove, that's fine, yes, as it relates to Patrick Westphal and his phone. The missing, as it relates to Brad Holder. What you have in your pleading, Brad Holder is the missing interview. That's what's destroyed. Well, Patrick Westphal too. No, he does not have a recording. This is about a lost recording. You've been given the narrative, Patrick Westphal. There's no recording. To that point, you're alleging, to the point, that's the point. You see how the fuckery back and forth? And I'm going to comment on this later. So just let's get through it. Okay. That's the point. There's not a recording, says Baldwin. That's not destruction of evidence, says James Luttrell. Your dismissal is based on the destruction of evidence, says Diener. You see how do they get to gang up? Question on that one. Blah, 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 blah. I'll do an offer to proof. Okay, line number 11 here. All right, so let's move on to Brad Holder. You said you saw Brad Holder outside the interview room, correct, when you left? I saw him in the lobby of the state police post. Now remember, okay, let me pull this down. Remember, the title of the show tonight is the March 2024 testimony of Officer Todd Click. This is about Todd Click. So I know we're kind of getting lost in how chaotic this hearing was, but this is about Todd Click. So let's bring it back around to Todd Click now, okay? So we'll do this. What kind of questions would you expect state police to be asking Brad Holder in an interview as an investigator? Objection, Judge. Speculations sustained. You see? Sustained, sustained, sustained. Every single objection. I'm handing you what's going to be marked as Defendant's Exhibit D. Can you identify that for me, please? Yes, this is a thumb drive that contains the audio recording of an interview conducted with Brad Holder. Did you get a chance to review it? Yes, I did. Okay, so Defendant's Exhibit D is offered. I have a couple more questions, Judge. Mr. Click, what date is this interview from? August 30th of 2023. State would object based on relevance with regard to a missing recording from 2017, which is the subject of this motion. Mr. Baldwin, this is a Brad Holder interview, Judge. That can be compared to the transcripts that are memorialized. 1 page, 100 words or something like that. Memorialization of the 2017 missing videotape. So I think that it's certainly appropriate and relevant. Judge, I'm sorry. Can you restate how that's relevant? I'm missing the connection. Mr. Baldwin says, well, there's a missing video in 2017. Delete it. And then the state followed up with an interview in 2023. That's what's contained in here, which, if anything, is different. That's in here versus over in 2017. That would show that the missing evidence has value. So that's the relevance. Judge, the evaluation of the value of the missing evidence, again, the case law, which I'm sure the court's well familiar with, that is cited in both the defendant's motion and the state's response, makes it very clear that with regard to missing evidence, the evaluation is specific to the time during which the evidence went missing. That's in 2017. The interview in 2023 is not relevant to that time frame. Again, we're way beyond what the law requires for a motion to dismiss for destruction of exculpatory evidence. Your objection is well founded. I'll show it and will not admit D. So, sustained. Okay, not admitted. Mr. Baldwin, Judge, if what's contained in the memorialized transcript or report from 2017 has different information than what is contained in the 2023 interview, how can that, I don't understand how that cannot be relevant. Based on your pleading, sir, it is not relevant. I will offer to prove then, if that's okay. I will summarily detail what Mr. Click would have testified to and what the exhibit would show. Is that okay, Judge? Yes, make an offer to prove. Thank you. What you would learn from Mr. Click and his review of this document or this exhibit is that the 2023 videotaped interview of Brad Holder, as well as the videotaped interview itself, is this. Brad Holder was never asked a single question about Elvis Fields. Brad Holder was never asked a single question about Johnny Messer. Brad Holder was never asked a single question about what his ex-wife, Amber Holder, said that Brad Holder confessed that Patrick Westfall was involved in the case and was involved in the murders, that Brad Holder was scared of Patrick Westfall. All of that would be missing. Also, you would find out that in the 2023 interview, Brad Holder claims that he met Abby one time. But in the 2017 memorialized paper, he never met her. All of that. Judge, I renew my objection. The statements made by counsel with regard to Brad Holder not being questioned about Fields, Messer, or the ex-wives is all conjecture as to whether that information would be even helpful to police. Again, these people are not on the inside of this investigation, and they're making an evaluation from outside and then transposing what Mr. Click knows from reviewing interviews that have been provided in defense or through his own investigation, and its relevance as to what the law enforcement agencies knew in 2017 with regard to the interview of Brad Holder on February 17, 2017. And the time period between then and the interview recording was lost. It's very specific. It's a very specific time frame. It's their motion. I don't understand why we're so far beyond it. Judge, part of the evidence is also we did not receive any of those interviews for 10 months after they were owed us. 3 months, almost 4 months after McClellan and his office was provided this documentation from Mr. Click, telling him, we have all this evidence of other suspects. I think it's all relevant, but I'll move on. Please do. Okay. That's all the questions I have. All right. So do you see the fuckery that went down in this court? Where is the truth about Abby and Libby in this? You see, with all of this circus, let me remove this for a moment. It's a complete circus. It's an absolute travesty. It's a mockery of justice for Abby and Libby, what we're looking at here. It's a circus in that courtroom. Nothing is about the truth. Nothing is about what actually was said, by whom, when, where, and how, and what, and why. For those victims, it's all games. It's legal games. Okay? Is that what our legal system has devolved into? It's all games. It's a game of pickleball here. Okay. Lady Justice, is she blind, holding fair and balanced scales? It looks like a fucking joke. All right, cross-examination. I'll go through this quickly, I promise. All right. Mr. Click, in 2023, you're no longer with law enforcement. That's correct. Yeah, he did 20 fucking years, woman. He did 20 fucking years. And you wrote a letter to the prosecutor about this investigation you had knew had been going on since 2017. Yes, because his buddy was fucking killed outside of his office over this shit. So he's a little upset about it. It matters to him. All right. And you actually participated in it at the request of this investigation, at the request of Ferenczi and Murphy. Is that correct? Correct. And if you prepared investigative materials and collected evidence, and they were your connection to this investigation, why would they not have been given all of your information so that it was forwarded on to Unified Command? They were provided with everything that was completed. Why didn't you do that? No, I did provide them with that information. You gave it to Ferenczi and Murphy? Ferenczi and Murphy, yes. So as long as Ferenczi and Murphy passed it along, because you guys were all working together, there'd be no reason to think they didn't have it, correct? That's correct. You make statements about Mr. Holder and Mr. Westfall wearing Vinlander t-shirts. Does that mean something? Why do you know it's a Vinlander t-shirt? Because the T-shirt fucking said Vinlander across the chest. You said you've known Elvis Fields for a long time. Yes, I have. He's a local in your area? Yes, he is. What's the mental capacity of Mr. Fields? I know he did not complete high school. Does he have a diminished mental capacity? That I do not know. Have you had contact with him? Yes, I have. Often? Yes, I have. And I know he's not a very smart individual. As far as if he's been diagnosed with any type of intellectual disability or anything like that, I'm not aware. Okay, no other questions. Okay, redirect. Did you ever run into anybody in your time as a detective that had low mental capacity that committed crimes? Yes, sir. Serious crimes? Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you. I did want to supplement my previous offer to prove with Judge, if I may, and then I'll be done. Go ahead. Also, you would find that on this videotaped interview of Brad Holder, he is not asked about why he and Patrick Westfall were no longer friends as described by Amber Holder, who said that it had something to do with a ritual gone bad in a forest by a river. With that, I'm done with this witness. Okay. Again, the state would object, says Miss Diener. That is not known to law enforcement at the time that the video went missing, and that's the reason that we're here. And your objection is well noted. You may step down. Okay. Now, we're going to move into what happened next. Okay. So, just a moment. So next up, Baldwin calls Amber Holder. Okay, Baldwin calls Amber Holder. State your name for the record, please. Amber Holder. How old are you, Amber? I'm 33. Okay, what do you do for a living? I'm a manager at Public Storage. I work 11 properties. You work 11 properties doing what? I clean the inside of the properties and the outside and help my customers. Okay, how long you been doing that? Maybe a year and 3 months. Okay, I'll get right to this. Have you ever talked to the police about the murders in Delphi? Yes. How many times? Twice. Okay, let's talk about the first time you talked to police. You remember what happened? Yes, at my grandmother's. Okay, how long was that? The whole interview? Maybe an hour. And what did you talk about? Objection, objection. These people with the state freak the fuck out at every important question. Have you noticed a pattern here in reading these transcripts? They freak out. Okay. When was it? I'm not sure. I'm not good with dates. Was it after the girls were murdered? Yes. They were investigating the murders? Yes. Okay. I renew my objection. It still needs to be within 2017 before the video went missing. Why, bitch? I hate this Miss Diener. You know, she's a wicked bitch. She really is. All right. Anyway, we're going to jump down here to line 7. I think it was 2018. That would be after the court. I'm sorry, I don't know how to make myself any more clear to you that you made specific allegations in your pleading that you are held to. Calling a witness up here that have been interviewed well past that date is not well founded and it's improper. I respectfully disagree with you, Judge. I think we plead and then we prove our pleadings through other evidence. The state in its charging information didn't include every single piece of information. The court, that's not what we're here to talk about, Mr. Baldwin. We're here to talk about your motion to dismiss for destroying exculpatory evidence, where you claim that a document dated February 17, 2017 of Mr. Holder and February 19th of Mr. Westfall was destroyed. That's the very narrow focus of what we're here for. Yeah. And if you don't have the witnesses that are going to testify to these things, you're wasting everybody's time. Yeah. Forget about the truth. Okay. As to Mr. McClellan's, as Mr. McClellan argued in his response, Judge, that we had to prove that the state of Indiana or law enforcement knew back in 2017 that there was material or exculpatory evidence. Says the ignorant ass judge. Or helpful evidence that there was bad faith. And at the end of the road here, there's an argument to be made that back in 2017, based on everything that you have heard, that the police knew there was exculpatory evidence on there, and where is that evidence? That's what I keep asking you. Where's that specific evidence that says fuck Fran Gull? Because she wasn't interviewed until 2018. How did the police know that in 2017 when you claim they destroyed it? Police are not ever going to say, now here, let me remove this. All right. Mr. Baldwin says, police are not ever going to say, I destroy exculpatory evidence. It's not going to happen. What is going to happen is other evidence comes out, like what's contained in the Franks memo, that shows that there's an ongoing hiding of evidence, a refusing to investigate, things like that. And this is what we're trying to do. If you expect that there's going to be a police officer that they're going to call, or I'm going to call, that's going to say, I erased exculpatory evidence, that is never going to happen anywhere in the world. Is he right or is he wrong? Again, let me read it. Fuck it. Okay. He's right. Okay. Police are not ever going to say, I destroyed exculpatory evidence. It's not going to happen. What's going to happen is other evidence comes out, like what's contained in the Franks memo, that shows that there's an ongoing hiding of evidence, a refusing to investigate, things like that. And this is what we're trying to do today. If you expect there's going to be a police officer that they're going to call, or I'm going to call, that's going to say, I erased exculpatory evidence, that is never going to happen anywhere in the world. All right. Of course, Ms. Diener comes in. Judge, he has to show that it's exculpatory evidence based on what was known on that date or in that time frame before we have to show that it was not the result of bad faith. And if he shows us exculpatory, bad faith doesn't even matter. If he can't show exculpatory in the potentially useful category, that we get to show that it was not a result of bad faith. So his first burden is to show that it's materially exculpatory, the video that's missing. That's his burden. It's an impossible burden, Judge, because it is missing. Okay. So you see what's going on. You see what's going on here. So I'll skip ahead. He says, well, this is how we prove it is by showing other evidence of police behavior, bad behavior. Then you can surmise as a judge, if all this happened then it would have happened back then. And Miss Diener's smart out little bitch ass. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. That's not what the case law indicates. Okay. So I'm going to offer to prove, Judge. An offer of proof, then we'll be done. Okay. So here we go. Okay. So I think what I'm about to do is block the fuck out of you if you keep questioning me in my chat. That's what I think I'm going to do. It's clear what I'm doing here, so stop asking. All right. Baldwin says, for the record, they have the right to offer to prove so that the Court of Appeals can understand, what we're doing. And we will have no record unless I offer to prove, Judge. Okay. You understand now? Oh. Okay. Well, you can sum up your offer to prove. Okay, so here we go. If Amber Holder were allowed to testify, she would tell you that police, listen clearly, including Jerry Holman and the other people that were deposed by defense counsel in August of 2023, have never talked to Amber Holder since August 2023. She would testify that Brad Holder talked about the Delphi case, that Brad Holder told her that he and Patrick Westfall had a falling out over a ritual in the woods near a river because Patrick Westfall wanted to up the ante from animal sacrifices. If Amber Holder were allowed to testify, she would tell you that Patrick Westfall, according to Brad Holder, committed those crimes. He is protected by powerful people. She would also testify that she saw on Brad Holder's phone girls that he knew that he posed on the ground with sticks, and that she knows are runes from her own heathenism. Back it up. She would say that she knows the girls posed on the ground with sticks, she knows are runes from her own heathenism. From her own heathenism belief system, that were runes on those girls in the form of sticks, and that he had them on his phone, and there were multiple photos on his phone. And finally, she would testify that Brad Holder knew Abby Williams much better than he told the police. He told her that he met her several times. That is the end of my offer of proof on this witness. Okay, so that's a lot. That's a lot. You see, that's a lot. She would say, according to Brad Holder, Pat Westfall committed those crimes. According to Brad Holder, there was a falling out in the woods because he wanted to up the ante from animal sacrifices. According to Brad Holder, Patrick Westfall is protected by powerful people. According to Amber, those sticks are absolutely runes. She knows because it's her own heathenism belief system. And finally, that Brad Holder did know Abby Williams much better than he told police, and he told her that he met her several times. Now, does none of that matter? Does it not? I mean, we know this is an entire circus, okay? All right. Yeah, I mean, and look, this was not the time and place for some of this information to be brought in. The time and place for that was a Frank's hearing, which was denied. Okay. All of that was denied. That's why none of this was let in. The 136 pages, which Doug Carter called a dossier, all right, and what he called ridiculous, and what he said was for manipulating the public opinion. It was what mattered. Hold on a moment, please. Okay, sorry about that. I had a very big problem I had to deal with. Now, we're done with this. So, what's the point here? What did I put here on the thumbnail? I put the photo or the mugshot of Todd Click after his arrest. Because what they did, and I wanted you to, how would I say it? I'm trying to open the chat here. Sorry. So I wanted everyone to understand the consequences of what happened. Okay, because there we go. Okay, perfect. So understand, in my opinion, I want to tell you what I think happened. Okay. Um, Let me look at this chat real quick. Okay. A lot of good chat. But I'll not focus on it now. I'll talk for a moment. um, um, Remember, this is March 18th. Hey, this is March 18th. Now, I'm trying to go back in my records here to look at, I think it's April 4th. Let me see if I can put my hands on this real quick. Um, oh, hell, that'll be too complicated to find at the moment. But I believe it was April 4th. Okay. So, what I'm getting at here is that March 18th. Well, let's look at a calendar. I'll do it this way. I'll look at a calendar, okay? And I'll go back to March 18th. Okay, March 18th. There we go. March 18th was a Monday. Okay? Two weeks later was April 1st. So what's important to know here is this was a Monday, March 18th. 2 weeks and 3 days later, the investigation into Todd Click was in full force with his former employer. Okay. About 2.5 weeks. So, immediately what that looks like, what that brings to mind immediately is that because of what you just heard, this is why I went through it line by line for you. Just consider all that you've just heard in the past 2 hours. The immediate result of all that you just heard from Mr. Click was that within 2 weeks, wheels were set into motion in order to have him arrested. Okay. Now, I speculate that what happened is, well, I'm leaving something out. The reason I know that to be the case is because several friends that I had in the courtroom, and I mean friends who are trustworthy, who are sensitive, who pay attention to what's going on in the courtroom, several of my friends who were there on March 18th, sitting in that courtroom, said to me, Prof, when Click testified, they were furious. Eyes popping out of head, steam coming out of ears, grimaces on the faces. Okay, because of what you just heard, they were furious that he sat on the stand and testified what you just heard. And by they, I mean state actors, okay? Indiana State Police and prosecutor's office. They were furious. Within 2 weeks, it's my opinion that they had set into motion an investigation into him in order to have him arrested. Okay, and the way they did that, in my opinion, is they had several individuals beat pavement and they said, listen, you go to every single one of his former clients, each of them, and you find something. And what did they do? They went to every single one of his clients. They found a couple with a few complaints. And furthermore, I speculate that they found one who was willing to be compromised and to make false allegations. So what you ended up with was enough to arrest. Okay? Keep in mind, at the time of March 18th and early April, when this was going on, the assumption would have also been that he was going to testify in trial as a witness for the defense. Okay? I think that they assumed he would be a defense witness come trial. They were absolutely furious at his performance in this March 18th motion to dismiss. And so a hit team was put out to go and take him down and put him out of the way. And what that was by using his former employment, digging up and fabricating some stuff to be able to have him arrested, which he's still waiting for his trial for. So keep in mind all of the other bad behavior around this trial, okay, around this case for years. All of the other things that have happened around this case for years. Think about it. By the way, was evidence not destroyed? This is a rhetorical question for you. Are you telling me that evidence was not destroyed when the entire first 6 days was destroyed? And then when an additional, 63 64 days were destroyed. That's 2 months and a week destroyed, deleted, erased. And as Mr. Click himself said, he felt that in that short period of time from 2018 to 2021, when Mr. Ferenczi was killed outside of his office and their investigation came to a screeching halt, those 3 years, he felt they had built a stronger case against Brad Holder, Patrick Westphal, Johnny Messer, Elvis Fields, etc., than the probable cause affidavit that he read for Richard Allen. Keeping in mind that he actually knew that case inside and out. Remember, there were 3 of them. 2 of them were FBI task force. That's Ferenczi and Murphy. They had the help of Mr. Todd Click to aid them in this investigation because of his deep knowledge of the individuals tied to Rushville. So, what it looks like from the outside is that you had an individual with 2 FBI task force members who had together from 2018 to 2021, when one of them was killed, and putting it all to a halt, the culture of fear that I often speak about. They had centered in on this angle. Now, is the angle identical with the Frank's memorandum? No, it's not. It includes some of the individuals who the Frank's memorandum took and incorporated into itself and expounded upon and came with this angle. But outside of that angle, you strip that away and you get back to Click, Ferenczi, and Murphy. There's a particular angle that they're looking at that includes confessions. Remember, you have the confessions of Elvis Fields. You have the confessions of Taylor Harnedy regarding Messer and the bloody car, etc., which we haven't gotten to that tonight. And you had the confessions of Elvis's sisters, and you had the confessions of Brad Holder about Pat Westphal, according to Amber Holder. So you had a lot of putting yourself there with knowledge of the crime scene. And the defense took some of that and brought it in and turned it into the Frank's memorandum. But is it not concerning to you? 70 days deleted, DNA ignored. What's the rumor of a missing thumbprint or fingerprint? And why would Doug Carter, for all of these years, put on this performance alluding to the fact that this was very evil, the embodiment of evil? There were so many tentacles. It was so complicated. Just one piece away. Then you had Robert Ives saying there were non-secular signatures that were so so strong, like several, and the girls were found so immediately after they were killed that you would think that this would have been solved in the 1960s within 2 days. You've had several people over the years put themselves there at the time, at the place, committing the crime, watching the crime, or being a part of the crime or the aftermath. You have bodies that were not found. You had community members go on for years who appeared to be lying in your faces about this. Shit, you had people that we know were there, that it is established absolutely were there, who have subsequently changed their stories, denied it, disappeared off the face of the earth, et cetera, et cetera. Well, now you have Todd Click facing jail time. That's what he gets. You had Stephanie Thompson, who was a polygraph examiner for some of these individuals, mysteriously die in a fire. You had Greg Ferenczi shot and killed right there at his office, lured out with a Molotov cocktail. His killer now being set up for an insanity defense looks like he's right on track to be found not fit for trial. And on top of all of this, you have Doug Carter, as I critiqued in one of my recent shows, coming on and saying several things. First, we are not corrupt. How dare you? Saying, I wish you could have been in that courtroom and could have heard those victims' impact statements. Yeah, we would have liked to. Who've said for years, one day I'll be able to tell you the story, but today's not that day. I can't wait to tell you the story. The community will be shocked. And now saying, do not share the crime scene photos. Do not. I'll never be able to forgive that. Why not? Is it because those crime scene photos might show that there's something strange about those sticks, and maybe that Amber Holder is telling the truth, that her hedonism or I'm sorry, her heathenry belief system gives her the absolute knowledge that those are bind runes? Should I read it again specifically? Because, I kind of fuck up at times. Let's read it again. She knows the sticks are runes from her own heathenism belief system, that there were runes on these girls in the form of sticks. So why the need by Nick McClellan to have you believe those sticks are not formed in the runes? And why the need to seal the crime scene photos to keep you from seeing with your own two eyes and judging for yourself? And furthermore, why the need to turn these girls into heroes, claiming that Abby hid the phone under her dead body because she knew that evidence of the killer was on that phone. So she hid the phone for investigators, thereby making her a hero, in addition to Libby being a hero for accidentally filming the individual who may or may not be, however clear it's viewable. Remember, we still don't know whether Bridge Guy, quote unquote, if it even was a guy, had anything whatsoever to do with this crime whatsoever at all. We don't even know if it's the girls themselves that are in that video from the victim's phone. But these individuals don't want any criticism at all. They only want to be right. They only want to be the heroes. They don't want to be questioned. And transparency is non existent because they don't want you to see. And as I often say, especially to my friends behind the scenes, I say, why? Over the murders of two little girls? Why all of this? Children are killed every day. Unfortunate as it is, it's a regular occurrence. So why all of this over the Delphi murders? Anyway, listen, I don't know Mr. Click personally myself. I know he did 20 years. Sorry, my nose is running. As a police officer. And that's worth something. And I know that when he saw something that clearly did not make sense to him out here in the public sphere, he did something about it. He sought advice and assistance, penned a letter, and handed over the entire product right into their laps. He did what he thought was right. And look at the price he's paid for it and is still paying. And remember, Josh Chrisman, driving truck, delivering pigs. I'm looking for it here to be able to read that before we get out of here. I should just search it. Go. All right, back to it. Josh Chrisman was originally part of a group called the American Guard. Josh Chrisman was also a semi-truck driver, conducting deliveries for Flynn Livestock, where Elvis Fields often worked under the table, assisting with loading and unloading pigs. And I said, how likely is it that this rumor of a pig roast all of these years may have teeth? There may be something to it. Is that how Elvis Fields got tied in to this situation? Something stinks here in Delphi. and everyone knows it. Oh, we'll be back to this. We'll be back to this Todd Click uh, testimony. Before we get out of here, I want to read something. All right. As part of discovery, the defense received a 12-page Word document that provided a summary of Trooper Kevin Murphy's investigation of the Odinist angle. Over time, for reference purposes, the defense has come to call this document the Odin Report. Therefore, to more clearly reference this document throughout the rest of the memo, the defense will use the moniker Odin Report when discussing this report. The Odin Report was created by Indiana State Trooper Kevin Murphy, who thankfully was independently curious. The Unified Command, though Liggett and Hammond, through Liggett and Hammond, had conducted or concluded, geez, I can't read, it's too far. Let's try this again. Through Liggett and Hammond, Unified Command had concluded by March 2017 that Brad Holder should be cleared as a suspect. Further, Unified Command had claimed that it had concluded very early on, probably March 2017, remember, after the first round of deletions, that Odinists were not involved. Despite Liggett and Holman clearing Holder as a suspect in March of 2017, and despite a mystery Purdue professor, that's Jeffrey Turco, dismissing all links between Odinism and the murders, Kevin Murphy pressed on. Murphy began investigating a man named Elvis Fields down in Rushville, Indiana. The fruits from this investigation ultimately boomeranged Murphy, as well as law enforcement officers Greg Ferenczi and Todd Click, back to Brad Holder, and therefore back to Odinism. Murphy, Ferenczi, and Todd Click's dogged pursuit of the truth is what we citizens and those accused of crimes should expect out of law enforcement. These honorable law enforcement officers were knocking on doors and conducting interviews, going wherever the evidence led them. Immediately following an interview, Murphy would reduce key aspects of the interview into a Word document. Over time, the Odin Report grew from a single page from his first interview with Mary Jacobs to 12 pages, with the last pages used for summing up his thoughts from all the interviews he had conducted. The defense has attached this document to this memorandum and marked it as Exhibit 36. Surprising to Murphy, even though he was handing over to Unified Command powerful evidence that really painted a clear picture of who was involved in the murders, Holman and Liggett did not seem interested. Eventually, Murphy said that Unified Command phased out the Odinist Rush County angle. He figured that this phasing out was due to Unified Command knowing things that he didn't know. That eliminated the Odinism angle. Murphy further stated, I kind of took my marching orders and just did what I was told and went where I was needed. In other words, Murphy trusted that Unified Command was doing the right thing. Who is Brad Holder? Who is Patrick Westfall? Who is Johnny Messer? Who is Elvis Fields? Who is Rod Abrams? And why does the evidence strongly point toward these men as having been involved in the murder of Abby and Libby? The Odin Report provides much of that information. However, the report is not the only source of evidence provided by the state of Indiana that links these men to the murders. The investigative fingerprints of Todd Click and the late Greg Ferenczi are predominantly peppered throughout the Odin report as well. Click also prepared a roughly 85-page report and delivered to Unified Command. However, the defense did not receive this document until September 8th, 2023, nearly 10 months after defense counsel entered their appearance. The defense will show what Liggett and the rest of Unified Command knew but refused to act on. This information is also what Liggett concealed from Judge Diener. The defense will include the evidence that links these men to the crime scene and to each other, including the intimate knowledge that these men had of the crime scene that only someone who had been at the crime scene would know. Okay? This is from the Frank's memorandum. So, I'll leave it to you. Vinlanders, Odinists, heathenry, runes, pigs, American Guard. What do these guys know about this crime scene and about this crime? Why would Elvis's sisters implicate him in this crime? Why would Taylor Hornady implicate Johnny Messer? Why would Amber Holder implicate Brad Holder and Patrick Westphal? These are all loved ones. And remember, there's also Messer's baby mama. I forget her name. All of these family members and loved ones implicating their loved ones in this horrendous crime. Ferenczi dead, Stephanie Thompson dead, possibly others. You see, I called this trial a circus because I said it was all goofing around about the law. Never about pertinent facts from this discovery. And when has a task force and a unified command that includes countless, dozens of officers from every agency imaginable lose 70 days of investigative product, recordings, logs, handwritten notes. Shit. We don't even have Dan Doolin's recording of Richard Allen or handwritten notes of the interaction with Richard Allen. Additionally, the tip that seems to have been planted that Kathy Shank miraculously discovered in a file, this needle in a haystack, was marked cleared. And how is it that our prosecutor, some of the POIs, Miss Shank's family herself, and some of the victims' families all happen to be members of the Brotherhood, as are the Indiana State Police, a large number of them. But I'm sure it's all just a coincidence, and that means nothing, despite the blood oaths. So, I'll ask you this. If you're on the replay, please leave a comment down below. Please support the channel. Leave a Cash App, Super Chat, buy me a coffee, blah, blah, blah. You know, all the various support pathways. Support the channel. Hit the like, and we will continue the conversation another day. There's so many more questions than answers. And unfortunately, that's what it always is. And I've said so many times, I have no clue about the level of involvement or non-involvement, Mr. Richard Allen. Really don't. But here's what I do know. There's absolutely no way on earth, or should I say, there's no way in hell that a pretrial detainee in the United States of America should be treated the way that he was treated. Listen, I knew, we all knew, we saw it happening in real time. What do you mean? Well, let me refresh you. Remember when Richard Allen was arrested? Bring yourself back to that place. Remember seeing him paraded around like Hannibal Lecter and thinking, gosh, they act like he's a real dangerous guy, like he's going to run away at any minute. Look at all the other murder suspects around the United States on a daily basis being transported, moved into court, out of court, et cetera, all around. Do you see them treated that way? No, you don't. No, you don't. Anyone who tries to normalize that for you, send them a friendly reminder. Take some screenshots of all these other pretrial detainees. They're not paraded around like Richard Allen. The way that he was chained, cuffed, shock vest, the whole 9 yards with 8 guys around him. They're not paraded around that. Why was Richard Allen paraded around like that? Also, we saw Richard Allen deteriorate. Remember after his arrest, I believe it was about the time that summer came, as it turned into spring and summer, and he clearly lost 50 pounds or so. The way that we saw him, and we said, that guy's, something's wrong here. Something's wrong here. Like he's dying. We all saw that happen. Then we saw Robert Baston's letters. Robert Baston's letters came and said, they're threatening to kill him. They're calling him a kid killer. They're threatening to kill his wife and family. No, but what did the troll farm do, though? They called a criminal a criminal. Yes, they discredited Robert Baston's words because he was a convict. Then we saw one of the defense interns quoted in the Franks memorandum when September came, saying that Rick Allen said, "Is my wife alive? Is my wife okay? Is my family alive? Is my family okay? They're going to kill me. They're threatening to kill me." Oh, who's doing that? The guys with the Odin patches. Oh, really? Coincidentally, the guys with the Odin patches. Well, hold on. Wasn't Shane Meehan a former corrections officer who probably would have worn an Odin patch had he had the opportunity? See, we saw it all happen step by step, by step, by step, by step, by step. We've seen every bit of this tick, tick, tick along. Obvious as could be, in plain sight, right in front of your eyes. They do it all right in the open. Just like we've seen Judge Gull. Clear railroading, clear bias, clear exclusion of things that would be exculpatory and concerning. There was no admonishing law enforcement for deleting 70 days of interviews. There was no blaming Jerry Holman for the death of Robert Fortson. There was no blaming the troll farm for leaking crime scene photos at a time when it was important. No, no. All there's been is admonishing the other side. Okay, you blame the defense attorneys for this, and you blame the defense attorneys for that. And remember, Mitchell Westerman had his charges dropped, his record will be expunged. The accountability is never placed where it should be. Truth be told, it's always turned back onto the other side. And that's not just unfair, it's wrong. Everything has been for a reason. So, with that being said, exactly, Jenny, thank you. Exactly. Troll farm tactics, Darvo. It's no mistake. All right. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you for commenting in the chat, especially. And thank you for supporting the channel. Those of you who've donated, I'd like to say a special thanks, especially to Mudbug tonight. And Jake Brooks, Ashley Nudo, 26 dead zombies, dude. Okay. God bless you all for supporting the channel, and everyone here in the live chat. And like I said, if you're on the replay, please leave a comment down below. I love to see the comments come in, and I do read them. And hopefully people will respond to you. So that's it. I got to run. I got to run. So good night, everyone. God bless. Look, bring the comments. Bring the conversation to the comment section. That's the best I can do. But it's a good show. Okay, good show. A lot of things to keep in mind. Okay, what Todd Click actually brought to the table and why he was silenced, just like Ferenczi and Murphy and a lot of people. All right, so we'll check you out later. God bless. Hopefully, we'll do our awesome show. I've been promising you I got an awesome show planned. I got to have my guests lined up perfectly in a row to be able to pull it off. So pretty soon we'll have our end of the year special extravaganza. So we look forward to that. And anyway, God bless. Hide your kids, hide your wives. Good night, y'all.